So, welcome back to our third part of our little Angry Cows tutorial. What are we gonna do now? Let's remove this first. First of all, let's go back into the Canon controller we added in our last session. Double click on it. And now what we want to do first, because we've talked already about that in my last session, if you hit play here, Unity, then as you can see in our bullet container, a lot of bullets are getting added. So we have a lot of clones in our scene. And that makes, of course, the whole calculation of the scene more complicated for our computer, for our CPU and GPU, because all these bullets are falling now somewhere. They want to fall to the ground, but as there's no plane underneath our floor plane here, they are just falling into the sky. And so what we want to do is, as soon as the bullets are out of our normal game space, so maybe, for example, if they reach a certain Y position, then we want to remove them. So as soon as we do not need them anymore, we want to remove them. And what we can do is go back to our script, and then let's add a comment here, check bullet positions. And as you can remember, we had this bullet container. So what we can do is do a for each loop. You guys might already know that from other programming languages. And in this for each loop, what we are doing is that we are searching for all the child objects, which are transforms, in our bullet container, the one we added in our last session. And now what this for each loop does is checking out how many childs we have in our bullet container and goes through all of them. And then what we can easily do is just make an if statement. If child dot position y is smaller than -5. So basically it rolls down our floor plane, then we destroy our child object. Okay, let's go back to Unity. Here we go. And if we hit play now, and we are shooting around, as you can see, okay, nothing happens by now. We're getting a script error here. But why? Because what we try to destroy right now is a transform. Let's go back into our script. But the destroy function only works with the game objects. So what we need to do here is child.gameObject, and then we are getting the instance of our game object, and now everything should work. Still loading, clear out our console logs. And then, as you can see, all our bullets are getting removed as soon as the position Y is smaller than -5. Okay, that makes our game, or gives our game a better performance, because we do not have to calculate the positions of all the bullets anymore. Okay, so what do we want to do next? As we said, it would be nice if our cows here are getting some kind of game interaction as well. And what we can imagine that we want to add a script to them. And this script should check where they are located right now in our game scene. So what we can do, we can either select one of them, or in better case all of them, And now we are adding a new script for them. Let's call it cow controller. New script, create an add. Let's go quickly back into Unity. And what we should do first is move it in our script folder as well, like the other script. And then we can either by clicking on our cow controller here, double click, or in our scripts folder here, you can open it as well in Visual Studio. So what we want to do now is use a function in Unity, which is often used, to check if objects are colliding with each other. What we can do is add a private function here. Void is always the value the function is returning, as this function is only checking if there's a collision. It's not returning anything at all, so void is fine. So, and now, as you can see, there's a function which is called onCollisionEnter. If you press enter, Unity or the Unity IDE is already adding the whole function for you. So as you can see, there's a function onCollisionEnter, which gets triggered as soon as something hits our object, or our object hits something inside of our scene. And what we want to do now is check what kind of collision object this is. So if collision.gameObject, so basically the object in our scene, .name, because every object in our scene has a name, and as you remember, we named it floor before. If that's the case, so if the collision game object's name is floor, that means our cow, did hit the floor. And what we want to do then is destroy our cow, so destroy the game object we are in. Let's go back to Unity. Takes a while to compile. So now, as you can see, our floor has the name floor. So if the cows are hitting the floor, they are getting deleted. Let's try that out. Okay, it's not as easy to get them to the ground. Come on, it worked before. Okay, here we go. And as you can see, they are disappearing. Bloop. Okay, nice. To make it even a little bit more nice, we can add a small time delay in there, because right now they are falling to the ground, they're disappearing from one frame to the other, and what we want to do in our cow script is add a little time delay in there. So let's go back to the cow controller. And now what we can do is add a coroutine. So you can check the Unity documentation if you want to know more about that, but if you search for set timeout in Unity or something, like you might know from JavaScript, there's an explanation of how you want to set it up. But what you need is an enumerable function, which we can call maybe destroy on delay. And then what you can do here is add a delay. So return wait for seconds, and then put 2 seconds in there, for example. And after that, let's see, new wait for seconds. And after that, whatever we want to do gets called. so we want to destroy it. How can we call this type of function? With start coroutine and then destroy on delay. To type everything right, start coroutine, destroy on delay. And we copy and paste it again here. Let's see what the issue is. Ah, sorry. This function needs to be an I enumerator. Okay, now it's working. Awesome. So let's click on play again. And now, as you can see, if the cows are falling to the ground, they're staying there for a little bit and then they are getting removed. Cool. So, what we want to do next is to add a game controller. What we can do, just that we have a nice hierarchy in here, is create an empty game object and call it game controller. Maybe push it a little bit more up in the hierarchy. And then we can add a new script called game controller. New script, create an add. So what we want to do in the game controller, maybe first of all put it back into our scripts folder again. Our project is clean. And let's open it in Visual Studio. Come on. And now what we want to do here is we want to check if all the cows who are in our scene are still in an active state. So as soon as they fall to the ground and they get destroyed, they are not active anymore. So we can check, hey, how many cows are still in the scene? And if all the cows are removed, the game is pretty much at the end. And then we can just reload the whole scene. And what we want to do here is add a public object again. And these are from the type cow controller, because that's our script we gave them. And now we can put these brackets in there. And this means that this is an array of cows. So basically we can attach 1, 2, 3, 10, whatever, how many cows to our variable here, and let's call it cows. Yeah, and now what we can do in our update function, like we did before, check for cows. First of all, we can add, let's add an integer here, cow count. This is always null at the beginning, because now we are starting to count the cows. So what we can do is for each again, same function we've used before. And now what we can say, we have a cow of type cow controller, cow in our cows array. So we are going pretty much through all the cows in our scene, which we will attach later on to our script. And then we are checking if the cow is not null because it was not destroyed. Then we just count our count up, plus plus. Plus plus means that you're adding one integer on top, so 1, 2, 3, and so on. After this for each, we can add another if statement. If cow count equals null, then do something, because all the cows are not in our scene anymore, and now we want to reload the whole scene. What you need for that is import, and you can find all that also in the Unity documentation, but if we want to load new scenes or start and stop scenes, we can use Unity Engine and then scene management. And then there's a class called scene manager, and then we can load scene. And what we want to do now is load exactly the scene we are in. So we can use scene manager class again, and then get active scene. And because load scene always wants to have an integer, we can get from our loaded scene build index. That basically means that when the game is over, we are just reloading our scene. Okay, let's test that. Let's go back into Unity. Reloading again, because we've changed something in our script. And let's hit play. Come on. Okay. As you can imagine, nothing happens by now. But why? Because in our game controller, there are no cows added. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cows we want to add. So what you can do here, this is the cow array, and we can tell them, hey, we have 6 objects we want to control, or we want to check if they are still there. So by dragging and dropping, you can add the cow instances here. Okay, nice. Now let's try it again. Hit play. Okay, let's try to shoot them all to the ground. And this one still there. Come on. Okay, and now we can see all of them got removed. The scene is reloading, and we can start from scratch. So basically we have a whole gameplay. Nice. So last but not least, I want to introduce Unity UI to you guys, because then we can add nice overlays here and maybe count the bullets we've used, or maybe how many cows have already fallen to the ground. By now I will just show you guys one example. Maybe let's count the bullets, and then you can even extend that later on. So first of all, right click UI. UI always needs a canvas. A canvas is something where we can draw on in real life, so every UI in Unity needs a canvas as well. So let's add that first, and maybe let's call it UI canvas. And then inside of this canvas, what we usually add is a panel, which is basically, if you go into your scene mode, to your game mode, you see that we have now a panel which is stretched all over the place, because if you go to your inspector, you can see here that the rect transform is set to stretch. What does it mean? That it goes all the way from left to right and top to bottom, but you can set offsets here. So if you put 100 pixels here, 100 top, then it gets smaller. But stretch is not the transform we want to use. We want to use top left. And then what you can do is maybe change the pivot to 0 and 1, that it's really sitting top left. And then what we can do is make it smaller, so maybe that it doesn't overlay our whole game, that it's more something like a nice information top left. Okay, so, and now let's add a text object. Same here, aligned top left, pivot 0, 1, and then we set it, if we set it to 0, 0, you can see that it's nicely aligned top left, but it's still a little bit small. So first of all, we can add a little bigger font size here, and of course we have to make it wide and a little bit higher to cover all that. And then in the end, probably want to have something like bullet 1000, so that it counts our bullets up nicely. You can play around here with the color. In our case, it's just black. And also with the different font sizes, font styles, and so on and so on. And this is just the basic text component. If you want to do more with text and also align it in a nice way and get some additional features, you should use Text Mesh Pro, which is a little bit more advanced. Yeah, probably we'll talk about that in another tutorial. By now we're just using this text element here. Let's maybe set it to 20, -20, so that the position looks kind of nice. And maybe adjust the panel a little bit as well. Okay, that's fine by now. It's just an example, so do not worry. Maybe let's call this text label here bullet text. And then we are ready to go. Okay. So, as you remember, in our cannon, there's inside added to our cube the cannon controller, and that's the script where we are adding the bullets into our scene. So what we want to do here is add a private variable, which is called, of the type integer. This is called bullet count. A lot of developers are using underscore for private variables, so that you know exactly inside of your code which variables are private and which are public accessible. So that's something we can do here as well. And now, as we remember, in here, get mouse button down, we are adding the bullets. So what we are doing here is maybe count up bullets. What we are doing, bullet count ++, count it up. And now what we want to do is write this new count into our text element. What we need to do is, first of all, import Unity Engine UI. And then, like we did with all these other objects, add a text element here, which is called bullet text. And then, pretty easy, we can go down here to our bullet count, bullet text, dot text, and then print out our bullet count here. But of course now we would only see the number, so what we want to do here is add a little bit of text in between as well, so bullets, and then you can always connect a string with the number with plus in C#. Okay, now as you can see, bullet count ++, bullet text gets printed out. Back to Unity, and of course what we need to do is, after the loading, add the bullet text here and out into our cannon script. So drag and drop it up, and maybe the default text we can set it to bullet 0. That starts with 0. Save it and press play. bullet count is set to 0, and now we can start destroying our wall. Let's see how many bullets it will take me this time. As you can see, there's still stuff lying around under our cows. And here we go. Yeah, and that's basically it. So this was part 3 of our Unity tutorial, angry cows. Yeah, from here you can go crazy. So maybe add some more modules in there, add nice, I don't know, a nice grass flooring here, or even use other things like a real slingshot, maybe some animated modules, whatever. And yeah, also maybe add some more game logic into your game controller so that you are counting the falling cows as well, and maybe even add another scene with another level, because now you know how to load scenes as well. And yeah, this is just an inspiration. You can do way more stuff with Unity and prettier stuff as well, because this scene looks really like back out of the 90s. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my tutorial, and yeah, let's see you hopefully in the next tutorial. Thanks a lot.